Good morning, Boker Tov. Welcome back to Parsha Perspectives for today. May it be a day of Besoros Tovos. Let ceasefire hold, let there be peace, let Hamas surrender, let the hostages come home. Let's continue to have Amir Hashem victory and good news. Our Parsha series is generously sponsored by Becky and Avi Katz and family in memory of David Grossman. We're very grateful to the Katzes for sponsoring in memory of Becky's father, Leilu Nishmas David Ben Menachem Manish. This morning is also sponsored by Ron Eisenberg in honor of his father's Yurtzeit Mordechai Eisenberg on Gimel Tammuz, and in honor of his daughter who was born on the same day as his father's Yurtzeit. And this morning's shir is also dedicated in memory of my Zayda. My grandfather's Yurtzeit is tonight and tomorrow. Sam Aboff, Shmuel Ben Yona Gedalia, tremendous man, a gentle giant. We miss him terribly. And our learning is Le'iloi Nishmaso. Parshas Korach, page 820 in the Art Scroll Stone Chumash. Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kas ben Levi v'dasan ba'avirim ben Eliyav v'on ben Pelez ben Reuven. After making our way through Sefer Vayikra, such esoteric, complicated, detailed laws, we're now back in the narrative of Sefer Bamidbar. Unfortunately, it's not an uplifting and a happy and a gratifying and a positive narrative. It's complaint, it's failed mission, it's rebellion, it's divisiveness and machlokas. And yet the Torah communicates it all because our sacred Torah is not trying to pretend to be a utopian document to capture a utopian life. It's not painting a picture of perfect people living perfectly. It's rather describing a reality. It's describing imperfect people, human beings with all of our failures and all of our foibles and all of our challenges. And that too is an inspiration to all of us because the Torah is giving us the blueprint, the recipe for how to navigate and overcome so much of it. So the parsha begins with the word Vayikach Korach. And we've discussed this many times in the past. You can listen to all the shiurim, of course, from before. Vayikach, the word Vayikach means and Korach took, which begs the question, what did he take? If I say, and you took, I would continue to say, and you took the box of tissues, you took the phone, you took the last piece of beef jerky, you took something, Vayikach. And yet the pasuk goes on, Vayikach, and it never tells us what he took. Vayikach and Korach took. Who's Korach? All of a sudden we get on it's like an ADD pasuk. We get on this distraction. We go on this detour. Korach, the son of Yitzhak, the son of Kas, the son of Levi, and Dasan va'aviram, and On ben Pelez b'nei Ruvain. What happened to Vayikach, the opening word? So Rashi says, Lakach es atzmo, letzad echad, lios nechlach mitoch ha'eda la'orer ala kahuna. He took himself to one side. He divided himself. Instead of being part of, integrated, connected of a whole, of a community of people, he extracted himself. He divided himself. Vayikach, what did he take? The answer is, he took himself. Ves paleg is like a plugta. The Gemara plugta means a machlokas, a debate. So Targum teaches the word vayikach, not he took, he divided. Vayikach means he divided. He divided. In order to hold on to machlokas, lokeach uscha laflicha mishar b'nei adam. So says Rav Shmuel ben Ramam Tifer Shmuel, asking on Rashi, lakach es atzmo l'tzad echad l'chora hamachlokas mizora tchila v'rak achar kach lakach es atzmo l'tzad echad. It's out of order. What happens? First, someone does something to upset you, to aggravate you. You're divided. You have a debate. You have a machlokas, and then lakach es atzmo l'tzad echad. An issue arises. There's two ways to see it. Something breaks out, a debate, a fight, an argument, in a community, in an institution, God forbid, in a family. So first the machlokas rises, and then you choose a side. You don't choose a side and then have a machlokas. Lama kasav Rashi, tchila lakach asmo tzad echad. At first he chose a side, and then chilek ala kahuna, and then he had a debate, a disagreement. He accused Moshe and Aaron of usurping, of taking the kahuna. It's out of order. First there's a debate, and then you choose a side. You don't choose a side and then have a machlokas. Azay fragt the Tifer Shmuel, that is the question. V'yesh lamar, says the Tifer Shmuel, demiyad kishehikvid korach amasha mina Moshe Rabbeinu elad tzafan ben Uziel v'hirgish la ba'achtos in Moshe Rabbeinu. That is exactly how it works. The very question is the insight. We said first you see there's a debate, there's an issue, and you choose a side, but it's not true. Sometimes you choose a side, the other person so bothers you, The other person is so different than you. The other person you so recoil or withdraw from. Lakach atzmo tzad echad. All you know is, I can't stand them. I'm in a debate with them. What's it about? We'll figure it out. What am I upset about? What am I outraged over? What am I arguing about? I don't know. We'll figure it out. But all I know is, I disagree with them. I have nothing to do with them. All I know is, they're wrong. They're wrong. As kol ma shenasa achar hu ra zeh be'ayin ra, v'dano salachova. So after Moshe appoints Elitzaphan ben Uziel, and he says, I want nothing to do with those people. What am I upset about? What am I disagreeing about? We'll figure it out afterwards. But all I know is, the first thing is, I disagree. And you see this today in our time. The level of hyper-partisanship is insane. So what happens is nothing's getting done in the government here in America. Why? Because all I know is they're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican, they're a Democrat. All I know is, whatever they say, I disagree with. Then I'll hear what they have to say. Not let me hear, and maybe we agree, maybe we disagree. How can anyone not see it as an outrageous success to obliterate Iran's nuclear program and not go to war? All everyone should be saying is, Yeshakach, it's an outrageous success. But if you're on the other side of the aisle, you have to say, no, he usurped his powers, he had to go to Congress, he violated an act. And by the way, the same was true in the other direction, depending on who's in office. So when the Democrats are in office, the Republicans said they usurped their power, they had to go to Congress. Instead of looking and saying, we're united, we have this in common, this was a goal, this was an achievement, Yasher Koch, congratulations, there's a hyper-partisanship that exists in this world. First, I'm in a machlokas. You're the other side of the aisle. You're the other side. Now, what are we arguing over? We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. All I'm confident, all I know is one thing, we disagree. What's the issue? I don't know. We'll find out. I just know we disagree. So you see that where does machlokas begin? You can have healthy disagreement. Any topic that comes off. We have a fantastic program started after COVID called Off the Record. After the 9 o'clock minyan, we sit, we make l'chaim, we have kiddush, we bring up a controversial topic, and it's a chance not for the rabbis to speak. Everyone can voice their opinion. And it's a beautiful, beautiful conversation. It's an outstanding, smashing success. And people disagree. They disagree vociferously and vehemently and passionately. And then they drink l'chaim and eat shalent and say we're one community, we're one people. There are legitimate things to disagree about. But the question is, are you having a legitimate disagreement but really you're united? Or are you divided and now you find that you disagree about everything? You see that the beginning of machlokas, of a pernicious, negative, destructive debate, is to first see yourself as shnei tzadim. In other words, you have a shul board, and there's a policy that has to be debated. So do you say, let's start with this. We're all invested in the well-being of our community. We're all equally committed, we all equally care about the well-being of our community. Now we can have a healthy discussion how to pursue that. What should the policy look like? But really we're united, there's no other. You're not the other side, we're united. But when it begins with you're the other side, Vayikach Korach lakach es atzmo l'tzad echad. When you live a life of us and them, there's the other side and me. And now later you fill in what you're arguing about. That's how you get to destructive machlokas, devastating machlokas. Kishaosim atzmo l'shnei tzadim shu tzad echad v'achar tzad sheni ze aschala shemachlokas rachman l'tzlan. V'zeu kavanas Rashi vayikach, and that's what Korach said. Vayikach shemiyad shekorach lokach atzmo l'tzad echad lo hirgish kachabura achas and Moshe Rabbeinu. If he said, Moshe, you're my cousin, no, let's go out. Let's have some sushi. Let's talk about what's going on. You're my cousin. I love you. We equally care about the future of the Jewish people. I've got some concerns I want to share with you. In the end, we're united and we love each other. But when it starts, Vayikach letzad echad, you're the other side. I can't talk to you. I can't break bread with you. I can't give you shalom aleichem. You're the other side. Zeu yisod machlokas. Because really, it should be the opposite. It says in the Tifer Shmuel, when when a couple would go meet with Rav Shmuel Berenbaum, the Rosh Hashiva, the Mir Brooklyn, to meet with him about Shalom Bayis. Couple had conflict. There were issues, Shalom Bayis challenges. Or two brothers who were having a fight about business. When they would come into his office, he saw the following. He had a table set up with chairs on both sides. If they sat on opposite sides of the table, he understood the issue. He would say, first one of you move. When you sit next to each other on the same side of the table, I can meet with you, and now we could have a conversation. If you position yourself as opposites, if when you sit down, your enemies, your adversaries, your opposites, letzad echad, you're on other sides, you're divided, you're partisan, then we're never going to break through. But when you can sit on the same side of the table, and what's true, it's important. How you sit, the posture you take physically reflects and indicates a lot of what you're thinking, a lot of where you're holding. So when you walk in a room and you sit on other sides of the table and you cross your arms and you sit back and you fold your legs and you can't make eye contact, it's telling you everything about whether you're really open to shalom bayis, to figuring it out. When you sit on, I have a couch I used to have a table and it had the same phenomenon, people sitting on the other side. And I realized that a couch is much more productive for the meetings I have. So I have a couch that's like an L. It's a couch with a corner. And when the couple walks in, do they sit next to each other on the couch? Or do they sit on opposite of the couch? And it tells you so much where they're thinking, how they're feeling, and what they want the outcome to be. What they want the outcome to be. If you sit on the other side, then it's lakach es atzma letzad acher. You're going to another side. If you sit next to, we're here, we're working something through, we need some advice and some support, but the goal is we're united. The goal is that we're one. And that, in fact, is the mission of the Jewish people. Because Klal Yisrael be'etzem, in our essence, we're one. Ki ish echad b'lev echad. V'lachen yesh chiyuv gadol shav'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. We're one, we're united. And that's why we have an obligation to love our neighbor as ourselves. When that splinters, when that breaks down, when that dissolves, when we become tzad echad, partisan, opposite sides of an aisle, when there's an aisle breaking the Jewish people, then we lose our v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. We lose our sense of ki ish echad b'lev echad, and then we're in danger, and then we're in trouble. I wrote an article, I didn't put it out yet, hopefully later today, but my article for this week. I was at a wedding on Sunday, and at the chuppah, we all stood towards the end of the chuppah for the Mishaberach V'Tzahal. Beautiful rendition of it from my buddy Shim Kramer. I haven't been to a wedding since October 7th, and I've been to dozens and dozens and dozens, Baruch Hashem, just since October 7th. I haven't been to a wedding since October 7th that didn't include, maybe it was Tehillim, maybe it was the Mishaberach V'Tzahal, but it wasn't business as usual. An acknowledgement and recognition, a pause on our joy that there's a war going on in our holy land, our brothers and sisters, people on the front line, and certainly this past Sunday, while in the aftermath of the attack on Iran and the uncertainty of what was going to be. And it occurred to me, as America entered the war on Motzei Shabbos and Saturday night, and I stood at that chuppah listening and closing my eyes and adding our own tefillah to the Mishaberach V'Tzahal, I was thinking, in all of America's wars, against Afghanistan, against Iraq, was there one American wedding that was interrupted with a prayer for the troops? In America, was there one American wedding, maybe if there was an immediate family member of the bride or groom, maybe. But it's unlikely. Were there many? Were there any American weddings interrupted with a prayer for American troops? And yet, here we are 6,000 miles away, and Jews around the world, wherever they are, can't go on with their simcha if there are Jews in harm's way. Because that's what it means. That's what it means to be one. That's what it means to be one. So, it reminded me. The Gemara in several places, Yevamas Bal Metzia Krisos, the Gemara says, you, Atem, you the Jewish people are Kruyim Adam, you're called Adam, but the nations of the world, the Umas Ha'olam are not called Adam. And read simply, it's a horribly prejudiced and biased statement. Only the Jewish people, are called man, and the other nations of the world, the other non-Jews of the world, they're not worthy of being called Adam, man. Wow, that's pretty harsh. That sounds pretty biased. Rabbi Frand shares a story that has an insight. In 1912 in Russia, Mendel Bayless was accused of killing a Christian child and using his blood to bake matzahs, one of the horrible blood libels. And Bayless was put on trial. And the slander and the variations of it were prevalent for many years in Europe, and even, believe it or not, in New York in the beginning of the 20th century. And these were blood libels, and Jews continue. Anyone who accuses Israel of a genocide in Gaza is a modern-day blood libel. The blood libels have a new form, but they still continue. So Bayless's lawyer was very afraid that when they got to court, the opposing counsel to buttress their case as evidence that Jews look at non-Jewish blood as inferior, as less than, would quote this Gemara in no less than 3 places. Yevamas b'Masiya Krisus, Atem kriyim Adam, the Jewish people are Adam, and non-Jews are not Adam. And the lawyer was worried, how will I refute? How will I defend? How will I explain the statement of the rabbis in Beilis's defense? So the lawyer went to go see the Chortkover Rebbe and asked him, how will I respond if the opposing counsel raises this Gemara as evidence that Jews look down on non-Jews, and indeed, maybe Mendel Beilis baked a matzah with non-Jewish blood? How will I answer? So the Chortkover Rebbe said the following. He said, if Italian was seized and put on trial, we would not witness in a scenario where all Italians were congregating in their churches to pray for the one Italian. And the same can be said about the French, for a Frenchman, or about any other nation, any other ethnicity, any other race. If one were on trial, it wouldn't make everybody gather in their place of worship. They wouldn't gather to rally for that person. They wouldn't pray for him around the world. But when a Jew is seized and put on trial, the solidarity that Jews have towards one another is that Jews around the world stop and daven for the welfare of that Jew. That's uniquely Jewish. Said the Chortkover Rebbe, that's the pshat. You see, we have many words in Hebrew for man. Ish, anashim, gever, gvarim. Every synonym that we have for man has a singular and a plural. How do you say Adam in plural? You can't and you don't, because there is no plural. It's Adam for the individual and the plural, because the only people on earth who interrupt their weddings, all of them, to pray for people and soldiers on another side of the world are Klal Yisrael, are Am Yisrael. Mika Amcha Yisrael Goy Echad Ba'aretz. This is something that is uniquely special, uniquely Jewish, and that's what the Gemara means. Atem kriyim Adam, you're the only ones that could be used a word that has no plural because you're so united. It's not knocking, it's not prejudice, it's not bias, it's not saying non-Jews are inferior. It's a phenomenon, and it's a 100% true phenomenon. The only people on earth that interrupt their lives wherever they are because a Jew is in trouble are the Jewish people. Atem kriyim Adam, and that's the opposite of Vayikach Korach. Vayikach Korach was so dangerous, so catastrophic, so destructive, because Korach was introducing this notion of Vayikach. Lakach asma letzad echad. Jews are ever on another side? We might be having a healthy debate, but we're never on the other side. We're always on the same side. A couple can have a healthy debate about what to do in a particular circumstance, but they're always on the same side, the well-being of their family. And Korach introduces this notion of Vayikach, of being taken and going to the other side. And when you go to the other side, that was incredibly, incredibly dangerous for the Jewish people. Shmuel Berenbaum, a second piece of Shmuel Berenbaum, continues. The Rambam in Igeres Teiman writes, V'chein amru Rabbeinu Zichron Livracha, I'll call mistapik b'nevuah lo amdu avosal al Har Sinai. Hamakam yatzilenu v'yatzilchem v'yasafik v'yachik michem mimenu michem ha'machshavos mavilos v'yasafik l'dei mechshol. V'kasha, says Rav Shmuel Berenbaum, Halu Korach adas amdu Har Sinai. The Rambam writes that anybody who doubts prophecy wasn't at Har Sinai. If you challenge Moshe's authority, his leadership, you weren't at Har Sinai, where it was clear Moshe's role as appointed by Hashem. So Esther from Berenbaum, I don't understand. Korach and his entire Eda, Korach and his whole entourage, his whole group, his faction, they were all at Har Sinai. Rashi says, when they said we're all equally holy, says Rashi, what they meant is, we all were equally at Har Sinai. So if indeed they were all equally at Har Sinai, how could they make such a terrible mistake to challenge Moshe's authority? If the Rambam says anyone at Har Sinai would see the authority of Moshe, the prophecy of Moshe, and if you challenge Moshe's authority and prophecy, all it means is you weren't at Har Sinai. So how could it be? Korach and his Eidah were at Har Sinai, and yet they're challenging the authority. So listen to this insight. Says Rav Shmuel Berenbaum, Yishlam api pashtus, diyesh ladamos as hakofrim, b'Moshe Rabbeinu l'masha anu roem hayom. You see, the challenge, the kfira, the denial, the heresy of the authority of Moshe is similar to what we see today. Yesh anashim shemachishim ba'atzaros hanorosha avru al Klal Yisrael b'melchemes ha'olam hashniya, Holocaust deniers. Shmuel Berenbaum, of course, was talking decades ago, but it didn't take long after the Holocaust for there to emerge Holocaust deniers. Holocaust deniers. By October 8th, there were October 7th deniers. Hamas videoed themselves. They wore GoPros and they chronicled all their atrocity. It's undeniable, the record, aside from the testimony that we have. And yet, by October 8th, there were October 7th deniers. When you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. And that's what happens here too. Yes, Korach and his Eido were at Har Sinai. And yes, they knew that Moshe's authority and that he's the Av HaNaviim, the father of all prophets. But they began to say a lie. And when you repeat the lie often enough, it becomes a truth. When they first said about Moshe, who is he? What's his authority? Who put him in charge? They knew he was in charge. What they really meant was, we want honor, we want distinction, we want power. But in the context of their pursuit of power, they introduced this idea, who says Moshe is special? They knew he was special. But they began to repeat that lie. And when you repeat the lie over and over again, you forget the truth. He has a long essay about this, but that is the primary, that is the fundamental yisod. Perek Tezayim Pasuk Gimel. So they get up and they challenge Vayikalu al Moshe v'al Aaron v'yimra aleim rav lachem ki kol ha'ida kulam kedoshim v'socham Hashem madua tisnasu al kal Hashem. They rally, they gather against Moshe, against Aaron, and they say, it's too much for you. All of us are equally holy. Why do you elevate yourself over the congregation of Hashem? Over the congregation of Hashem. Who are you? And what are you? And why do you raise yourself over everybody else? Over everybody else. So says Rav Shmuel Berenbaum. We're going to see other commentators today, but we got a few Tifer Shmuels. Im lakachta ata malchus lo yelacha levar la'achecha kahuna. You know, you got to have a division of powers. You took malchus, royalty. Why'd you make your brother the Kohen? So Yivra Hashem lahamis asam b'misa shelo kameis ba'adam arheina. And Moshe says, what's his response? If you keep reading the rest of this parak, Moshe says, Bezos Teidun. Moshe says, Hashem, you've got to avenge my honor. You've got to knock them out. You've got to take them out. And Rashi quotes, listen to Rashi. Lahamisosam b'misa shalomeis ba'adam arheina. Moshe appeals to God and says, Ribbon Shalom, kill them in a way no one has died until now. Wow. Says Rav Shmuel Berenbaum, what happened to the Moshe, who's the most humble of all men? Where did the Moshe, who always fought for and advocated for Klal Yisrael, go? After Chet HaEgel, what does Moshe Rabbeinu say? Forgive them, if not, erase me from your book. Now, after Chet HaEgel, after Chet HaMaragel, throughout the wilderness, after the Misonanim, after each episode where the Jewish people are incorrigible complainers, where they rebel, where they make horrible mistakes, what does Moshe do each time? He prays to Hashem, forgive them, forgive them, forgive them. What does he do now here? Kill them a death nobody's ever seen before. What happened to the gentle, sweet plea for forgiveness, Moshe? What happened to the humble Moshe? Now, all of a sudden, his honor is challenged, and Moshe goes from the sweet, gentle advocate, the one who was constantly standing up for and pleading with Hashem for forgiveness, and now, instead, all of a sudden, he says, kill them with a death nobody's ever died from before. What happened? What happened? Says Rav Shmuel Berenbaum, Ta'achatayim ha'kodem hayu avera shel taiva, u'mamela haya makom shemoshe Rabbeinu yilmad aleim zchus lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sha'yetzahara shel taiva is gaber aleim b'osa makom v'osa zman. Earlier, all the other episodes of poor judgment, of mistakes, were failures of the Yetzer Hara, of Taiva. They were distracted, they were tempted, they were seduced. The mun tastes no good, we're worried about this. That's not right. The Yetzer Hara distracted them. So the Yetzer Hara, when they panicked because Moshe didn't come back, you could do tshuva for. When the Meraglim gave in to their fear, you could do Yetzer Hara for. You could do tshuva for. When they complain, the Misonim Nimra, you could do tshuva for. However, Kan Shabo Lachlok al Nevuas Moshe Rabbeinu, Bezeh Zazuas HaYesodo Shel Olam. They were going to undermine everything. If Moshe doesn't have authority, if Moshe is not reliable and credible and trustworthy, then the whole Torah that Moshe transmitted is undermined. Why do you have to keep Shabbos and kosher? Why do you have to give the Kohen the first Aliyah? Why do you have to be bound by the Torah's rules and regulations? If in fact Moshe has no authority, credibility, trustworthiness, if Moshe was not to be relied on for the transmission of Torah, then you undermine and you compromise, you corrupt the entire Torah. The whole Torah. And they're suggesting that Moshe Rabbeinu, he's in it for the wrong reasons. He's all about honor. He's all about power. You can't trust what he's told. If you can't trust what he said, then you have nothing. You have no foundation of Yiddishkeit. You have no foundation of Torah. And that's why, says Rav Shmuel Berenbaum, when it came to the other rebelliousness, you could accept their tshuva, you could advocate on their behalf for forgiveness, because they indulged the Yetzer Hara, everyone's human. But this, if you'd indulge it, if you tolerate it, it would undermine everything. It would lead to such a rebellion. The Jewish people, their very future, the very way they were constituted, were threatened and could be altogether denied. Rabbi Sachs, Chumash, in his Chumash, has a similar idea. Rabbi Sachs writes, the Korach rebellion is not just the worst of many in the wilderness years, it is also of a different kind. It is not about a problem the Jewish people have encountered, a lack of food or water, or a way through the sea, or the prospect of having to fight a battle against giants. It is an ad hominem attack on Moshe and Aaron. Korach and his fellow rebels accuse Moshe of nepotism, of failure, and above all, of being a fraud, of attributing to God decisions and laws that Moshe has devised himself for his own ends. In contemporary terms, the Korach rebellion is a populist movement. Populism is the politics of anger. It appears when there's widespread discontent with political leaders, when people feel that heads of institutions are working in their own interest rather than that of the general public, people come to feel that the distribution of rewards is unfair. A few gain disproportionately, and the many stay static or lose. Discontent takes the form of the rejection of current political and cultural elites. Populist politicians claim that they, and they alone, are the true voice of the people. Populists stir up resentment against the establishment. They're deliberately divisive and confrontational. They promise strong leadership that will give the people back what has been taken from them. The Ramban is undoubtedly correct when he says, such a challenge to Moshe's leadership would have been impossible at an earlier point. The Ramban was dealing with a question. What was the Ramban's question? When did Aaron get appointed the Kohen? Way back when? We read all of Sefer Vayikra. Aaron is anointed, Aaron's elevated, Aaron is preparing and lighting the menorah, Aaron and his sons. Why does it take until now for Korach to begin his rebellion? Right after Har Sinai, right after Aaron is appointed. That's what bothered the Ramban. You know what the Ramban answers? Korach was smart. Korach knew if he tried to incite a rebellion then, he never could. He never would win. I read a headline this morning that Bibi's thinking about calling elections immediately. Why?
He's got a lot of goodwill.
After what he just pulled off, a military defeat against Iran, beyond anyone's expectations. There was the 6-Day War and the 12-Day War. And the 12-Day War is more miraculous than the 6-Day War. What was accomplished and achieved, please God, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. I don't know if he will or he won't, and I'm not weighing in on the politics of Israel, that's for sure. But meaning, he senses, right now is the time nobody could defeat me. Korach knew, coming off of Har Sinai, the beginning of their journey through the Midbar, nobody is going to take his side if he takes on Moshe. Only in the aftermath of the episode of the spies, when the people realized that they would not see the promised land in their lifetime, could discontent be stirred by Korach and his assorted fellow travelers. They felt they had nothing to lose. Easy to tap into their disappointment, resentment, and fear. What happened after Chet HaEgel? This generation was told, you're not making it into the promised land. You're not getting in. And now that they weren't getting in and they had nothing to lose, now that they had a general discontent, now Korach says there's misery and melancholy, there's pessimism and negativity, there's hopelessness and despair. Now's the time to incite a populist rebellion. Moshe wins the argument against Korach, but only at the cost of invoking a miracle in which the earth opens up and swallows his opponents. Yet this does not end the argument. The next day the people gather against Moshe. You've killed the Lord's people. In this kind of confrontation, there is no benign outcome. You can only aim at minimizing the tragedy. There's a warning here to stay far from people, movements, and parties that demonize their opponents. Listen to Rabbi Sachs, I will read that again. There is a warning here. Stay far from people, movements, and parties that demonize their opponents. A healthy culture welcomes argument and respects dissenting views. Resist with all your heart and soul any attempt to substitute power for truth. What a powerful insight. And it really combines all that we've seen until now. Says Rabbi Sachs, Vayikach letzad echad. Any movement that's trying to divide, that's trying to demonize, that's making their opponent the other, stay away from. We're all on the same side. We're trying to figure it out. We're on the same side. We care. We could have healthy debates and disagreements, but we have to be on the same side. Korach went wrong because he took them to the other side. And why now? Because he never would have succeeded earlier. It had to and could only be now, at this time, at this point, at this moment. Pasuk Daled. Vayishma Moshe vayipol al panav. Moshe heard and he fell on his face. Says the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. Why did he fall on his face? Korach gets up, 250 men. He's got a movement. It's gaining speed. And he says, who are you and why you? And by the way, Korach has a very compelling argument. We've spoken about this in the past, so we won't get into it now in depth. But Korach has a very persuasive, very compelling argument. The democratization of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism. We're all equally holy. We're all the same. Who put you in charge? Who put you in control? Who made you special or different? Who gave you all the power? We were all at our Sinai. We all equally heard the voice of Hashem. We're all equally holy. Unlike in other religions, where leaders have to live different lifestyles, the rabbi, the Rosh Hashiva, the men and women in leadership positions in Yiddishkeit, we have no other mitzvahs that apply to it. We're all bound by the same mitzvahs, by the same expectations, by the same lives and lifestyles. So Korach's argument is pretty compelling. It's pretty compelling. So Moshe hears it and he reacts, Vayipol al panav. He falls on his face. Why? Says the Orach Chaim, Neged Masha Amar Shemis Nasim Al Kal Hashem Shekol B'Dvei Moshe V'Aaron Keneged Masha Nogel Moshe Nafal Al Panav Laharos Katza Achron Achna V'Shiva Nafsha Ka'afar Haaretz Ke'even HaMeshtacha B'Lefnei Asrara. What was Korach accusing him of? You're so arrogant, such an ego. You need to take everything for yourself. Malchus and Kahuna. So Moshe tries to respond. I have an inflated ego. I'm arrogant. He falls on his face. Onu Lameidim Mikan says that to Shmuel. Heichan Igia an Vasaso Shal Moshe Rabbeinu. Shafa Bisha Moshe Rabbeinu Hayaborech Min HaKavod B'Tachlis. Hari Amar Shlach Nabiyat Tishlach. HaTorah Yida Alav Ish Moshe Anav Mod Mikol Adam. Afa Pichein Keshetanu Korach V'Adaso Kenegdo. Madua Tisnasu Al Hashem. Lo Rak Shemoshe Rabbeinu Lo Ka'as Aleim. Adarabba. Mitoch Anvasa Gedola Nafal Al Panav. Moshe's immediate reaction, even though the Torah has already testified he's the most humble man of all time, Moshe doesn't say, how dare you? Who are you? How could you? Moshe says, he falls on his face and he says, for a moment, maybe they're right. Maybe I've taken too much for myself. Maybe I'm too arrogant. Maybe my ego's out of control and needs to be in check. Vayipol al panav, he falls on his face. He gathers himself. And Hashem tells us, you've done nothing wrong. And at that point, Moshe realizes, if they undermine my authority, the whole Torah is at risk. And that's why he says, give them a death nobody's ever experienced before. But you see, beforehand, when a leader gets criticism, their first reaction should be, is there any merit or truth? Is there anything I can learn? I always try for myself. Every now and then I get some criticism, email, text, or in person, and I divide into three. There's the messenger, the messaging, and the message. Who's saying it? How are they saying it? And what are they saying? And often, the who's saying it and how they're saying it makes us not want to listen to what they're saying. It's obnoxious, it's chutzpahdik, it's disrespectful, it's unappreciative, it's hypocritical and duplicitous. Who are they? So often, because of who's giving the message and how they're delivering the message, we shut down and don't want to hear the message. And it's hard. I try to practice. The most important thing is to say, is there merit to the message? Even if I don't like the messenger, and even if I don't like the messaging, is there merit to the message? That's Moshe's reaction. Vayipol al panav. Zoi derech hagedolim hamanhigim shel kol dor vador. Sheyiborchem min hakavod v'asimin shel hagedolim ch'al Yisrael haya anivusam. You see that the symbol, the sign of great leaders is the humility to say, did I make a mistake? Was I wrong? Did I come up short? Is there merit to this message? Is there something to learn from it? Is there something to learn from it? And that's how Moshe reacts. That is indeed exactly what Moshe takes from it. Perek Tes Zayin, trying to decide what to do next. So much here. Boker. Perek Tes Zayin Pasuk Hey. Vayidaber al Korach v'chol aso lemor. So he speaks to Korach and his whole entourage, his whole faction. Boker. V'yoda Hashem es asher lo v'es hakadosh v'ikri v'elav v'es asher yivcha bo yakriv v'elav. I'll tell you what. Let's wait till the morning. And in the morning, Hashem will make known who is the one who's his own and the Holy One, and he'll draw him close to him. Whoever he chooses, he'll draw close. Maybe you've got a good point. Maybe you're making a fair argument. So I'll tell you what. Let's wait till the morning, and in the morning we'll see who Hashem. This is easy. We don't have to guess. We don't have to do a lottery. Hashem, through revelation, will determine who, in fact, should be the appointed, the leader. Boker. Says Rashi, why Boker? Why wait till the morning? Amala Moshe, Gvulos chilek HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamo. Moshe, Rashi quotes the Medrash, that Moshe tells him, Hashem made boundaries in the world. Yicholam atem la'afach boker la'erev, kach tuchel levatel azu. Shnema v'yer v'yiboker, v'yavdel, kach v'yavdel aron lahaktisho. Moshe was giving Korach a shtickle musar. And he said, let's wait till the morning. What do you mean morning? What is morning? V'yer v'yiboker, there's night and there's day. Why isn't it all the same? Because Hashem made boundaries. Hashem said there are two different units, periods of time. There's night and there's day. Can you turn night into day or day into night? No. Moshe was telling him, no more can you turn yourself into the Kohen than you can take and turn night into day or day into night. Boker, just like time has boundaries, and there's different parts of time, there's day and there's night, so too people have positions, and there are boundaries that Hashem gave to them, and you can't impact them. It is equally impossible to revoke Aaron's appointment as the Kohen Gadol. No more can you change Boker and Erev that you can change you and Aaron. Now, how is this distinction between night and day relevant to Aaron as Kohen Gadol? What is this Boker? So, Rav Asher Weiss, the Minchas Asher, suggests the following. The Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Peches, says, Tan Rabbanon, Aluvim ve'enin olvim shomach harpasa ve'enin meshivim. If a person is insulted, if a person is offended, and they absorb the insult without lashing out, without fighting back, they hear their disgrace, but they don't respond. Osa me'avos mechem b'yisurim, aleim akasav omer, v'yoavav ketzeis hashemesh b'gvurasa. Those who love him will be like the sun which goes forth in its might. That's what the Gemara says. If you're capable of being insulted and absorbing that insult and not responded, it's brought down, by the way, get a bracha from such a person. If you see somebody who's insulted, who's humiliated, who's shamed publicly, and they don't fight back, they don't lash out back, they don't call a name back, they just absorb the insult and they move on. Get a bracha from such a person who shows such a capacity. The Pasuk compares such a person like the sun which goes forth in its might. The Iyun Yaakov, this commentary on the Ein Yaakov, offers a beautiful explanation. You know, when the world was first created, The sun and the moon were of equal size. Hashem made the sun and the moon the same size. But the moon complained to Hashem and said, 2 kings can't rule with the same crown. 2 kings can't wear the same crown. You can't make us the same size. I want to be greater than the sun. Shrink the sun, make me bigger. The sun heard its disgrace. And what did the sun do? Garnished. Nothing. Sun didn't respond. So Hashem said, you know, moon, you're right. It's not going to work well to have you be the same size. I'll tell you what. He shrinks the moon and keeps the sun the same size. In every generation, this is Hashem's method of resolving disputes between those who ridicule and those who are ridiculed. Those who disgrace and those who are disgraced but don't respond. He knocks down the ridiculers and the disgracers, and he uplifts the ridiculed and the disgraced. He comforts the disgraced as he comforted the sun. And that's what the pasuk means when it compares. Those who love him will be like the sun that goes forth in its might. With this suggestion of Usher Weiss, with this insight of the In Yaakov, the Iyun Yaakov, now we can understand Rashi's explanation. Can you turn morning into night? Moshe asked Korach. It's equally impossible to revoke Aaron's appointment as Kohen Gadol. Anyone who attempts to do so, disgracing Aaron, will suffer the same fate as the moon, which was thrown down from its grandeur. Yet Aaron and Moshe, who were ridiculed and disgraced, they emerge victorious like the sun. Like the sun. What is the greatest demonstration of strength? Is not to scream louder, is not to punch harder, is not to call a bigger name. The greatest display or demonstration of strength is to absorb an insult, stay silent, and not respond. The Gemara says in Gittin, when Titus HaRasha entered the Kodesh HaKadoshim and did the unthinkable and unfathomable, he unrolled the Sefer Torah and he did an explicit act with the harlot he brought in there and all kinds of other horrible things. You know what Hashem did? He was quiet. The Gemara says, Michamocha ba'elim Hashem. Don't read it Michamocha ba'elim, who is as strong as you. Read it Michamocha be'ilmim Hashem. Who is as strong as you that's capable of being an Elam? When you stay silent, when you're quiet, when you don't answer, when you don't respond back, that is the true and the greater demonstration of strength. The Baba of a Rebbe, Zechat Tzadik Levracha, Zechus Yagen Aleinu, Rav Shlomo Halberstam, he was known for his pursuit of shalom and avoiding machlokas at all costs. He was a man of peace. He stayed away from machlokas. He got along with everyone. He was beloved to everyone. One time, someone published Pashkavilion. Pashkavilion are those posters, and they hung around Brooklyn. They hung these posters against the Baba of a Rebbe. So the Baba of a Rebbe, of course, always. The Rebbe was afraid that it was going to lead to machlokas. So at a Rosh Chodesh Tish, listen to what the Baba of a Rebbe said. He said, I've been mochel, whoever put up the Pashkavilion. Whoever hung these signs against me, I forgive them. But if anyone decides on my behalf they're going to start a fight because of them, I'm not mochel you, not in this world and not in the next world. Whoever hung up the signs, I already forgave them. I'm good. But if you think in defending me you're going to start a machlokas, I don't forgive you in this world or the other. And of course, after the shmooze, nobody said a word, and it disappeared as quickly as it came. It died down. The capacity to absorb the insult, the disgrace, and to carry on. The Zohar says that Hashem's chariot has 4 legs. And the first 3 are Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the 4th is David HaMelech. We understand that the Avos HaKadoshim are the first 3 legs. Why is David HaMelech the 4th leg? The Chavetz Chaim writes in Shmiras HaLashon that David HaMelech became the 4th leg of the chariot because when Shimi ben Gera hurled insults at him in public, and David's followers said, let's kill him. He's Mord b'malchus. He's challenging the authority of the king. David said, no. Let's keep going. He absorbed it. He said, he couldn't be saying that to me if Hashem didn't want me to hear it. There's no need to respond. Let's keep going. Happens to be later he had him killed, but at that moment, he said, let's just keep going. Rav Pam says there are times we're meant to experience Yisurin, and the Yisurin that we get can come in many forms. Illness, financial collapse, a relationship crisis. And if the Yisurin comes in the form of someone insulting you, dance the Kazatska. Someone hung a poster about you, someone sent an email about you, someone said something not nice about you, and that's the way you're going to get your Yisur and your suffering, not a diagnosis, not a financial collapse, not a relationship that dissolves, because somebody hung something, said something about you. Psh, you know how excited and happy you should be? What a bracha that is, to get it out of the way in that way. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. So michamocha ba'elim, michamocha be'ilmim. We have the ability to follow in the footsteps of Moshe, and maybe that's Boker. Be like the moon. Boker, be like the moon. In the past, when we studied this pasuk, we saw the insight of Rav Soloveitchik and others. You know what Boker meant? Let's wait till we have clarity. When someone first comes at you and fights with you, it feels like night, darkness. Wait till Boker. Sleep on it. If you get a strongly worded email, do not respond before you sleep on it. You could write a draft, put it in your draft folder. Don't press send until Boker. You learn a critical lesson from our pasuk. Until Boker, till you sleep on it, till you have some clarity, till you thought about it, till you came to your senses. Wait until Boker, until you press send. Perek Tazayim pasuk ches. We're turning the page. Vayomer Moshe al Korach Shimon b'nei Levi, listen carefully. Ma'at mikem ki yivdil Elokei Yisrael eschem mi'adas Yisrael lahakriv eschem elav la'avodas avodas hamishkan Hashem la'amod al pnei hadeh shasam. Moshe turns to Korach and he says, Hama'at mikem. Listen carefully. Is it not enough for you that Hashem made you, separated you to draw closer to Him, that you have a role in the Mishkan? What did Moshe mean? What was Korach's role? What was his role? Levi. You're the tribe of Levi. I understand if you're rebelling because you're some lowly Oisvar of Yisrael. I'm a Yisrael. No offense, Dad. Made me a Yisrael. I would understand if you're some lowly Yisrael, you're rebelling, you want more. But you're a Levi. It's not enough. Hama'at mikem, it's not enough that you're a Levi. What's going on? What's going on? So the words Hama'at mikem literally translate is Hama'at mikem. How does ArtScroll translate it? Hama'at mikem. Pasuk Tes. Is it not enough for you? Hama'at mikem. Is it minor? What is the word mikem? Mikem means from you. Simple understanding would translate it as, is it minor to you? So, frek des vasemes este heliges vasemes the Ger Rebbe. Why doesn't the pasuk say Hama'at lachem? If that's Moshe Rabbeinu's point, is it not enough for you to be a Levi? What should it say? Hama'at lachem. Is it so small for you? What do you mean Hama'at mikem? You hear this vasemes question? Yeah? Anybody? Good, thank you. Sfas Emes answers with a theme that the Sfas Emes has throughout his Sfarim. And this is quoted by the Gerer Rosh Hashiva Roshal Alter Shlita. And he says the following. In a person's life, our actions, our talents, our successes, our achievements are not accredited to the way Hashem created us at one point. It's not that Hashem created us and then everything that we do with it is us. But rather, Hashem orchestrates everything in our lives. All that happens, every mitzvah that we do, every success that we have, the outcome of all of our efforts, all our material success, it all comes through Him. Hashem didn't press go at the beginning, and now we're on our own. He is with us, His providence, His involvement, and His dictating the outcome in everything we do. Someone who constantly lives with the knowledge never feels that he's giving something to Hashem. On the contrary, whatever we have the zchus to do in the service of Hashem is not due to us, it's Hashem who powered it. That's a pasuk in Divrei Hayamim. Ki mimcha hakol umiyadcha nisanu lach. Everything is from you, and from your hand we have you. So, I did well in the stock market. Yes, I chose the right stocks. I should be proud. Who enabled me? Who gave me the insight? Who made me read the right thing? Who made me make the right decision? Everything we do in life, spiritual and material, it's Him. He gave us the tools, the success, the wisdom, the talent. There's no existence but for the express will of Hashem. Even enthusiasm, inspiration, good intentions, and the like are gifts from Hashem. A person himself cannot recognize what is his own, what's from Hashem. So someone who truly lives with this awareness will constantly seek to serve Hashem with whatever opportunity we have. Whatever gifts, whatever talents, whatever skills, We use it in the service of Hashem. There is no difference to whether you're a Kohen or a Levi Yisrael. This is my mission. This is my purpose. This is my makom. This is my place. This is what I meant to do. We're learning this in Tanya. We learned yesterday. Every generation, a koma shlema, every generation, if you add up all the Jews of that generation, they make up one body. Some are the head, and some are the toenails. Some of the lungs and the liver, some of the arms and the legs. But a person doesn't look at it as a hierarchy with bitterness or resentment or jealousy or envy. They say, what's my role? What's my mission? What's my purpose? Why am I here? There is no hierarchy. It's why am I here? What's my role? Moshe Rabbeinu said, Hama'at, that which you consider the status of Levi to be minor, you know why? Is mikem. It comes from a feeling and perspective that your avodas Hashem comes from you, your power, and your merit. Hama'at, listen to the Sfas Emes. Hama'at, that which you feel less than is mikem, is because you're not doing it for the right reason. If you're driven lishma, if you're driven for the right reason in the service of Hashem, nothing is too small or too big. And you're not jealous or envious of anyone else. That's your role. That's your place. That's your purpose. That's your mission. So your sense, your feeling of hama'at, you know why you have a problem of hama'at? Because mikem. Because it's coming from a sense of mikem. That's where it's coming from, and that is your problem. Sholotzer goes on, but we'll stop that here. Perek Zayin Pasuk Beis. Turning to the next parak. And we have the ground opens, it swallows them up, the response, and so on. Perek Zayin, Pasuk Beis. Hashem speaks to Moshe, Emor al Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen v'yarem es hamachtos mibein hasreif ve'ish hazor hala ki kadeshu. Say to Elazar the son of Aaron, let him pick up the fire pans from the fire, throw away the flame, they have become holy. And the fire pans of the sinners, they'll make them hammered out sheets, and so on and so forth. So we have the ground opens up and swallows Korach and his Eidah, and then we have further tests of Moshe Rabbeinu intervenes again, and so on. Says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz. Says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz. Emor. So the Meiri on this pasuk, the Meiri writes, Lo ratza kadosh baruch hu lomar ken la'aron atzmo, kedei l'lamei derech eretz bekach. Emor el Elazar ben Aaron v'yarem es hamachtos. What does this mean? What's going on in this pasuk? Hashem speaks to Moshe. Speak to Elazar ben Aaron to lift the pans. He didn't want to speak to Aaron himself to teach derech eretz. What's the derech eretz? So Rav Chaim Shmulevitz in the Sichos Moshe, Dvarim mafliim. Ma makom yesh lachosh lechvodem shel 250 ish makrivei hakatoros. The Meiri somehow indicates Hashem wanted to preserve the dignity of the 250 rebellious people. Aleim emor leMoshe, lachein ata v'chol adascha noadim Hashem. Why are you preserving their dignity? Says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, you see something very powerful from here. That even when someone's wrong, and they've made a wrong choice, and they're coming out on the wrong side, nevertheless, for your sake, not theirs, still act with derech eretz, still care about their dignity. Even, you're tempted to say these are rebellious people. They're sowing rebellion. Who cares about their dignity? They forfeited their honor. That's not the Jewish way. Torah is teaching us that person doesn't forfeit their honor. They still deserve it. Even if they've made the wrong choice, we have a responsibility and obligation to treat them still the right way. We have to treat them the right way. It says the Megid Yosef, Perek Zayin Pasuk Hey. Zikaron l'bnei Yisrael manashid l'kirav Yishzar shel l'mizar Aaron hu l'hakter k'toros l'vnei Hashem lo yeh k'korach hadaso kasher diber Hashem biyad Moshe lo. Torah goes out of its way to tell us that this will be a remembrance. This is a reminder that no one should ever draw close. Don't be like Korach and his assembly, as Hashem spoke about him through Moshe. The Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Kuf Yud, Amarav, kol hamachzik b'machlokas over balav. If you hold on to machlokas, if you enter machlokas, if you become in the machlokas, you violate a biblical prohibition. Shenemar, Pasuk says, Lo yeh kekorach b'chadaso. Don't be like Korach and his followers. Rav Ashi Amar Roi litztara al kach. A person should be anxious over it. Meshunahu lashon roy lidstara. What does that mean? Im nichsha b'lashon hara az vada yitztara. If you violate lashon hara, so you're going to be punished. You're going to suffer. Im lav lama roy lidstara. And if not, why should you be worried? Why would you be punished? Nira shakam medubar shatem. This is the Megid Yosef Sorotzkin. Shakam medubar shatem nichsha b'lashon hara raku machzik b'machlokas. Before you speak lashon hara, you just get involved in the machlokas. You take a side. You get caught up. You want to be on the inside. You want to hear everything going on. You know what that's going to lead to? Davar zebarer shemisha machzik machlokas b'muktam or b'muchar yikasha b'lashon hara. If you're willing to get drawn into the machlokas, both sides are pulling you aside. Let me tell you, and why they're wrong, and you got to get involved and listen to this, and you won't believe what happened. If you're machzik machlokas, if you allow yourself to get involved, it will inevitably lead to lashon hara. And that's why, what did the Gemara say? Not anyone who's in a machlokas, kol ha-machzik b'machlokas. Demisha paga b'machlokas v'iznar mimenu. Machlokas tries to get you. Both sides, at shul, WhatsApp groups, they're going to try to draw you in. They're trying to draw you in. Did you hear this group? They broke away. They're doing this. That happened. Can you believe it? Aren't you going to do something about it? They're trying to draw you in. You have the ability to repel it. You have the ability to push it away, to avoid it. But if you're machzik, if you hold on to it, if you grab onto it, if you're excited by it, it's going to lead to the lashon hara. Says Rav Yosef Sorotzkin, he said, many years ago I knew a Jew who avoided speaking lashon hara like nothing you ever saw. Ayin tova la'akol. He had a positive eye in everyone. All he could see is the good in people. Unfortunately, his daughter got divorced, and she moved back in with her father. Eish machlokas achsa v'hu ma'in lisnachem. And the divorce was ugly, and it was messy, and it led to tremendous machlokas. Kol hayom hu diber sara al hatzad hasheni. And this man, says Rav Sorotzkin, who I knew, never said a word of lashon hara, who only saw the good in other people. Through that divorce, when it led to machlokas, he couldn't stop talking about the other side. A man who was incapable of speaking lashon hara become incapable of speaking anything other than lashon hara about the other side. That was what happens. That is how pernicious machlokas is. So damaging, so penetrating, so dangerous, that even a person who is so against lashon hara, if you're machzik b'machlokas, if you allow yourself, you grab onto machlokas, if it impacts you, it's all over from there. You're in trouble from there, it's all over. It's all over. We'll end with the Rabbi Sachs. We know that not only did the ground swallow up, and not only did they have the test of the fire pans, then they have an additional test of the rods, the staffs. That the one who's truly the leader, Aaron, will blossom. Will blossom with what? Shkedim. Writes Rabbi Sachs. The use of force never ends a conflict. It merely adds grievance to injury. What ends the conflict is not the miracle of the ground opening up and swallowing Moshe's opponents, but something else altogether. The visible symbol that Aaron is the chosen vehicle of the God of life. The gentle miracle of the dead wood that comes to life again, flowering and bearing fruit, anticipates the famous words of the book of Mishlei, Eitz Chaim hi l'machazikim ba. It is a tree of life for those who grasp it. Those who hold fast to it are fortunate. Moshe and Aaron stand accused of failing in their mission. They brought the people out of Egypt to bring them to the land of Israel. After the debacle of the spies, hope has died. The stick that comes to life again symbolizes that hope is not dead, merely deferred. The next generation will live and reach the destination. Hashem is a God of life. What he touches does not die. The episode of Korach teaches us there are two ways of resolving conflict: by force and by persuasion. The first negates your opponent. The second enlists your opponent, taking his or her challenge seriously and addressing it. Force never ends conflict. Not even in the case of Moshe, not even when the force is miraculous. There never was a more decisive intervention than the miracle that swallowed up Korach and his fellow rebels. Yet, it doesn't end the conflict, it deepens it. What ends it is the quiet, gentle miracle that shows that Aaron is the true emissary of the God of life. Not by accident is the verse that calls the Torah a tree of life, preceded by the words, Derachea darchei noam. Its ways are ways of pleasantness. V'chol nesivosei shalom, and all of its paths are peaceful. This is the preferred form of conflict resolution in Judaism, not by force, but by pleasantness and peace. And we'll end with that, with our hope that Israel showed force and militarily defeated and obliterated Iran and its other enemies. But the real peace is not the military force, it's when the Shkedim blossom. And so hopefully there'll be a blossoming of the Abraham Accords. Maybe now with Iran neutralized, Saudi Arabia and others will join the Abraham Accords. One is to militarily obliterate, but the real miracle is the sprouting and blossoming of peace in a meaningful and a permanent, hopeful way. Wishing everyone a good week and a day. We should hear Besoros Tovos, Yeshuos, V'nechamos.